Well, well, well. Finally got the patch notes. I got to read through all of these. There's a lot of things going on for this game, 100%. And I gotta say, my opinion of the patch, as you know, some of you may know, was not exactly great. Well, it didn't change that much actually. It's a little bit better for sure. There's still things that, in my opinion, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't know how to feel about this one. So the good things and the bad things, we're gonna start with system mechanics here because they are very important to take in consideration. And then we're going to talk about characters later. I'm not going to go through all the characters, but when it comes to system mechanics, I am a big fan of some of these changes, and there's one specific change. And maybe two things that I'm not happy about. So when it comes to system mechanics, my favorite changes by far out of anything that they've made, right, is the changes to things like ultimate skills and raging strike changes. So they're basically adding much more scaling to these mechanics. This is something that I directly talked about in my wishlist video for patch 1.50, especially for ultimate skills. I mentioned that it would be really nice for ultimate skills to actually increase the scaling by a few levels actually, and that's exactly what they're doing. I think that's really great. It's a change that is really welcome. I'm glad they are not actually changing the refund system of the ultimate skills. I know a lot of people really don't like the refund system, but I think the refund system makes a lot of characters having tools that are much more viable, or actually more usable in general, and more fun in general, right? I think that's good. But the things that were really bad about ultimate skill was just the damage scaling being absolutely absurd. On top of that, they're also changing some other things about the ultimate skills, which makes the SBA gauge feel more slowly during a combo. So basically, this could potentially, I think, kill the 150% meter combos that people were doing before, where you know, you just hit somebody at 100% meter with a raw ultimate skill first, and then you refund the entirety of the 50%, and then you kill them with an SB and stuff like that. It did like 10,000, 12,000 damage. It was really absurd. So they're pretty much getting rid of that through these changes. So I'm a big fan of that. Raging Chain and Raging Strike are also getting a damage scaling nerf, which is really, really nice. I think a lot of ultimate skills plus Raging Strike, Raging Chain were really amping the damage by a ton. So now this has been nerfed by quite a bit, and I'm really happy to see that. The bad part about the system mechanics that I'm very disappointed about is, first of all, the change to Dashlight. Now, a lot of people would be like, well, this change is actually good because it's allowing everybody to have the same thing. And this is exactly where I'm not happy, especially because of the direction that the game is going towards, right? And especially because of the good parts of the changes that they have made to characters overall. I specifically do not like Dashlight for that reason. What I mean by that, the change to Dashlight is that before, the characters that had a 6 frame, I believe, close M button could go from Dashlight into a close medium, and it was a true combo. There are characters that couldn't do that. For example, I think off the top of my head, Zoe, Wayne, Beelzebub, Vane. There's a bunch of characters, definitely characters. Also, Siegfried couldn't, Vasaraga, characters like that couldn't do Dashel close medium. So now everybody is able to do that. However, there's going to be a high damage scaling on Dashlight. Now, the damage scaling on Dashlight is something that I wished for. I remember way back at the start of the game, because I remember being like, damn, this combo damage is kind of crazy off of Dashlight. So I'm glad that they're at least doing that. However, was it not for the new changes that they're making to characters, I would be totally fine with these changes, but I'm not, because the direction of the game is basically going towards character having more tools and having more opportunities for combos and stuff like that. The problem with this change coming from Dashlight, and that the thing that I don't like about it, is that it standardized and kind of homogenized the offense structure of the characters. I think it would have been way nicer to give the characters all these new powers that they're getting, basically, but having them work for the reward on neutral, because now dash L into close M into all that stuff is basically going to be a very standard way to play the game, which is going to make it very, I guess, whatever. I mean, it's just like packing reward on top of a reward for free for everybody, and I think it's kind of unfortunate because the characters are more interesting for sure now, but the structure of the offense is going to be very streamlined, which can lead to more repetition. So I'm not really a fan of this change for Dashlight. I wish it was the perfect opposite, and that Dashlight couldn't combo into anything at all. Not even a far L. Not even that. Just a stagger tool that gives you advantage. End of story. Because I think Dashlight honestly will remain and will always be my least favorite mechanic in the game because of how it's designed. I think I can see the potential of it being really nice to have as a tool for stagger pressure and stuff like that, but having it doing all this stuff, all this work all the time, I think is not a fun idea in my opinion. But that's just me, right? That's just my opinion. A lot of people rejoice about this. I'm not. Anyways, the other change that I'm not really happy about is the lack of change on two mechanics, one of them being throws and the second one being brave counter. Actually, when it comes to brave counter, I think it definitely makes sense that they are not changing brave counter because of the direction of the game. And again, characters are getting more combo potential, and in a lot of ways they're getting more wall carry potential. Brave counter unfortunately will remain a very powerful mechanic because in an environment where people have easy, another reason why they have to, in my opinion, they should not have done this for Dashlight, is that in an environment where characters have easy access to rewards through a mechanic like Dashlight, for example, wall carry all the way through corner to corner, we're gonna see that a lot. I think it makes sense for a mechanic like brave counter to exist the way it does, but I still think brave counter is a very toxic mechanic. These two mechanics, Dashlight and brave counter, they kind of act like drugs almost. It's like they're causing a problem, but they're also solving that problem. I don't really like that dynamic in my opinion. I think it's very unhealthy for the game overall and not really fun. So unfortunately, like I said, brave counter is not really being changed at all. So that's another thing. When it comes to throw, I do wish that throws didn't have that thing where you can tech by pressing a button. I wish they just had like a late throw tech or early throw tech and stuff like that, but it is what it is also, so it's fine. I don't really mind the throw changes too much, but I'm still disappointed that it's still the way it is. But yeah, outside of that, I think the system mechanics, like I said, I'm pretty happy with the ultimate skills and the raging strike and the damage nerf. That's really nice, and also the damage nerf coming from the Dashlight, so I'll take that for sure. Alright, when it comes to characters and a lot of different the overall direction of the game, there are lots of really nice things happening, and I was expecting that already looking at the Versusia versus Gran footage that they revealed yesterday. I was expecting characters to be way more fun, definitely. But there are also a couple things that I'm looking at and I'm really scratching my head as to why they did some of the changes that they've made in this patch. So overall, characters are getting a lot of good things. The simplest way to put the good parts of what they're getting is they are making the unique parts of the characters good, which to me is the absolute best thing that they're doing. I love whenever they take the unique parts of characters and just buffing the shit out of it. However, they are also buffing a lot of other things that, in my opinion, a lot of characters do not necessarily need, or they can live without those things, and it can cause some differences between characters that, in my opinion, would be fair. And unfortunately, I think also some of the buffs that they are making for the characters are problem-solving buffs, which in my opinion is not good. For example, just to put it in perspective, a character like Gran, you know, Gran puts you in the corner, he hits you there, he does a lot of damage and stuff like that. And then at some point, eventually, he hits you with the YOLO, EX boot in your face, wall bounce combo, you're dead. So this patch changes a lot of things about Gran in a very good way, but they are also fixing that problem. Like Gran is self-solving the problem that he has, which is something that I'm really not a fan of. So for example, they're making ultimate rigging live his ultimate projectile wall bounce, which already I'm not a fan of. And they also making it more safe for some reason. I'm scratching my head about. I'm like, what? But on top of that, they're also making overdrive surge L into H overdrive surge, right? So we've seen that change before, and it was a little bit worrisome to me because I was like, well, it's basically solving the problem that it has, which is having moves that are a little bit unsafe, right? Having like a certain level of risk and reward, right? And basically you could skew that risk and reward by using the pushback and using the distance for Gran in general, because there's a certain distance where overdrive surge becomes plus on block actually. But now you don't really have to think about it anymore. You just do L overdrive surge, and then if it hits, you just confirm into H. So that's basically problem solving for Gran in a very brain dead way, in my opinion. Now, the other part of the changes that are great for him, I absolutely love the power raise change. I think this change is probably the best change that they've made, and I think it looks great. I think it's really awesome. There are things that I'm a little bit like on the fence, like level 1 overdrive level 1 power raise giving him a combo just like that. I'm a little bit on the fence when it comes to that. Like maybe he didn't need level 1 to just give him a combo. Maybe level 2 to level 3 would have been good, but overall I still think this is good. But I feel like it's very overtuned in general. So that's the example of change that I mean that is like good, but there's like things where they change some stuff and I'm scratching my head as to why would they do this, because it's a little bit extreme in my opinion. But yeah, overall a lot of characters are getting more opportunities for combos, more stuff that they can do. Now the buffs and everything, right? I think overall when it comes to characters, changes and everything like that, I think it's great. Some parts or some characters choices changes have been really questionable. For example, the two extremes in my opinion are Belial and Fairy. I read Fairy, my instant reaction was just laughing. The first thing that they said, I bursted in laughter. That shit was so funny. They said things like, oh, Fairy excels in long range combat using her reach. However, we found that skill gaps between players could lead to one-sided dominance. To address this, her far standing M and her H has attacks can now be blocked midair. That I read that and I started just laughing. It was so funny to me. But when you look at Belial, Belial appears to have a standard set of skills, but he's capable of rattling his defense of the defense of any foe by using tricky moves like Goetia and Vasago. Although he doesn't have as many adjustments as some other characters this time around. We left his strong neutral game alone while increasing his chain of options. He buffed this character. This character got buffed. So obviously it would be very cheap of me to just say he won Evo, blah blah blah, but come on man, Aaron Demac, really good player. Can you really discredit the guy? No. But also this character, first of all, one of the most popular character in the game for multiple reasons. He's not just a catchy and very charismatic character. He's a really strong character, and he's always been strong ever since vanilla. And he's still strong in this game. He's been strong. And they've decided to buff him even more in this game. So this patch gives him some buffs. The buffs themselves are not necessarily crazy, but they're there. And there's like no nerfs, basically. So I'm not sure what is the idea behind this. A lot of characters too, something that's funny is that they changed a lot of characters meter gain that I thought were egregious, right? For example, Lancelot was a character I complained about this and I was so scared that this would go over the heads of the developers, but they nerfed his meter gain on his Rekka, which is huge, right? Same thing with Seox as well. They nerfed his meter gain on his heavy buttons. But Belial is also a character that has really stupid meter gain on his fireball. And on top of that, this wheel spin on the fireball doesn't launch you. They didn't nerf any of this. He's literally untouched and potentially better because now they're giving him options for him to save his cooldowns, which is crazy to me. So I'm like scratching my head like, what? This is wild. And speaking of top tiers, right? Because it's not enough. We have other top tiers like Siegfried. Barely got nerfed. Barely got nerfed. Right? I've seen people being really happy about the changes to his fireballs. I don't think this is necessarily a nerf. I think this will change the way he plays the game a little bit and not a lot. And I actually think that something that's actually nice about this patch, right? Because there's less damage overall in the patch, Manigans has much higher value. So if you get level 3 Manigans, for example, Dash Light for Siegfried technically is a really high value because remember, Siegfried cannot do Dash Light Close M. Now he can. Level 3 Manigans, Dash Light Close M, you're dead. I don't know, he's in a position where I feel like he's definitely still really stupid. Grimner, I don't know what to think of him. I think most of the changes are actually nerfs, so which is really weird to me because I feel like this character was not a problem and he's actually nice. I don't know. I don't know what to think. Maybe they nerfed it, maybe not. Grimner players will have to actually let me know on this one. Nier is also an interesting one. Nier has been completely reworked from the ground up. So now we are looking at a brand new character. Now the thing with Nier is that I think it's going to put the real Nier players to the test. Who's a real fan and who was just there for the free wins, right? And you know what's something that's really funny about this patch? For a lot of characters, they made adjustments to the ease of use. Some characters were like ease of use 3, ease of use 2. You know the meme? Nier was an ease of use 2 character, only 2 stars. Now they nerfed her to 1 star because they changed her entirely, and they're assuming these changes are going to make her much more difficult to play. You know, one last thing when it comes to character changes, because before I elaborate more on the characters that I want to talk about, is that they've made a lot of interesting changes about install supers. So install supers overall, they've been a little bit lacking. They've been a little bit on the lackluster side of things, and all the characters basically who have an install super, maybe except Fairy, have been benefiting a lot from, they seem to be benefiting a lot from these things. And speaking of characters having the little things, this patch, and another reason why I really like it, is because they have decided to break the rules for a lot of things that they've done before. This is a very daring patch, right? For example, something that I wished for in my wishlist video for 1.50 is that I wanted Lancelot's health to be reduced, and they've done it. They've reduced his health down to 15,000, so 1,000 lower than the average health. That's pretty great. And then they didn't just do that for Lancelot, they did the same for Six. Six has 14,000 health, same health as Avatar Belial, I believe. And you know what? Another rule that they decided to break, and this one is about my character, Beelzebub. They broke a sacred rule. They gave him a cross-up. Now, look, I talk a lot of trash, right? I'm a trash talker, but look, I'm not a bad guy. I'm not trying to hurt people. I'm just saying things because it's funny, alright? It's funny to trigger people a little bit. But I'm not trying to take things too far. I'm just saying, giving a cross up to Beelzebub, that shit feels mad evil, man. I don't know if I agree with this, but I'll take it. I'm not agreeing, but I'll take it. So that's crazy, right? They broke a lot of rules for a lot of characters, and I think it's great. All right, So last character we have to talk about real quick, and this one will be the final one, is of course my boy Vane. So Vane is getting some substantial changes that I think are interesting, but for the most part, my general opinion of the character is that I think a lot of the changes that he's getting are good technically, but they're not great. So real quick, so dash H really is a pretty good change. They're making it safe on block basically. So it's the one where he's spinning. This move is actually really nice for him. I really like using it a lot. I think it's one of his best moves, to be honest, but they are making it more safe, which is really good. His jumping U is having a bit more utility with like a, you know, a wall bounce and stuff like that. It's not really a move that you're going to use too much, but the utility is kind of nice on it, so why not? And then they are making changes to arm destruction, and which is the part that they are highlighting the most, it seems like, because now arm destruction gives him access to, especially H arm destruction gives him access to mid screen combos, which is nice, right? I'm not gonna say no to that. It's nice, but I think it has a little bit of an illusion of damage, quote unquote. What I mean by that is Vane has some trouble converting into H arm destruction. The requirements for him to actually convert into that is that he needs to land a counter hit far heavy. So counter hit far heavy is not exactly rare for Vane, but you have to hit confirm it well enough, which is not always easy because H arm destruction is actually slow. On top of that, he cannot do, for example, a 2M into H arm destruction. You cannot just poke and get that move, unfortunately, which really sucks in my opinion. So the most efficient way to get that, you know, that new mid-screen combo that he's getting is through Dash Light. However, as we know, Dash Light is having a massive, you know, scaling reduction now, like or scaling increase in damage. So yes, you can do it, but the damage output of it is going to be pretty poor in general. Plus, you have to use your Dash L, which Vane is not exactly the best character for Dash Lights in my opinion. But it's still something that he can do, so it is nice. But the best thing in my opinion that they gave to Vane, like I think this is the greatest change, is the changes to energy destruction. Energy destructions, all versions actually now give Vane a reward on counter hit. Do you know how awful it feels to land a massive counter hit but zero reward? It's good, right? This new change is good. And the best part about it is M energy destruction, which is his throw bait, now being safe on block. That's great. That's the greatest thing. That's easily the best thing that they are doing for the character. I'm so glad that it's going to be the way it is. So I'll take it. I'll gladly take this change. This is the best change by far. Little quality of life changes, but honestly, I think the energy destruction change is probably the biggest change that he's getting, and I'm really happy about that. So yeah, Vane is getting some stuff, but I don't think he's still that great of a character. I think he's still going to be on the struggling side a little bit, especially because every character is able to do the same thing. So yes, he's able to do the same thing as every character, that's great, but he's still not able to do the one thing better than other characters. So, you know, still on the iffy side for him, I think, compared to a lot of other characters who have a bunch of unique things. So yeah. Alright, so that's it for the patch. I think, like I said, it's a pretty good patch, but it comes with some big problems. And on the short term, I think it's, like I said, it's going to be really fun to play with the new stuff that the characters have. On the long term, I'm very concerned that it's going to just be very repetitive, because eventually, you know, Granblue is not exactly a complex game. So when it comes to things like combos and stuff like that, yes, it's nice for characters to have some stuff, but if the loop is to see every character and every matchup being like, well, you know, corner to corner carry each other, and then doing strike throw, and then, you know, brave counter, and then corner to corner again, breath counter, corner to corner, breath counter, ultimate skill. It's like, I think it's going to be a bit repetitive in my opinion, and I hope that it doesn't end up to be like that. Of course, I'm not saying it's going to be like that. I'm saying I'm concerned it's going to be like that. So yeah, that's it for the video though. I've been rambling a lot about this. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know what you think of the new changes. I'm sure a lot of people are excited about that, but I'm also curious to see if people have some things to say about some of the patches. For example, the characters that have been, I feel, unrightfully nerfed or still underpowered. Very, very concerned about characters like Fairy and Metera not eating well at all in this patch, considering that, like I said, there's going to be a lot of pressure, and having low health is probably not a good thing. So yeah, that's it for the video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.